How does a guy with a mechanical engineering degree end up chasing drug traffickers and violent gangs?
Well, I would say it's in my blood. My father was a police officer in Massachusetts. I have plenty of relatives who are police officers now or state troopers, both in Massachusetts and in Connecticut. And growing up in my family, it was either your police or fire. I have some others back in a city called Worcester, Massachusetts, who are firefighters or were firefighters. They've retired now, most of them.
But you started out your career, mechanical engineering, working for the airlines.
That's correct.
So how long did you do that before making the switch to the FBI?
Right around 13 years. Back
Really?
then, yes. Yep.
So it took a while.
It took a while, yes. But I got into the FBI just prior to aging out at 37.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can't go to the academy if you're 37? Is that what you're saying?
You can go in under certain stipulations, but overall, no, the minimum, I should say the maximum age you can go into the FBI is 37. Then you have to retire at 57.
And you were how old?
I was 36 when I entered. And I turned 37 1 month after I graduated from the academy.
Why the FBI as opposed to state trooper or police officer like other family members?
Well, as we all know, FBI is one of the best law enforcement around the world. It's well known. So that's what I decided to go down, that avenue of going with the best agency out there that I believed was the best agency.
I looked at your resume, it said you were on a part of a SWAT team in Baghdad to support a terrorism mission.
Actually, I was SWAT in Los Angeles. I deployed to Baghdad as a part of what we call a TDY, but it was not unrelated to SWAT.
Okay.
Yep.
So you were part of the SWAT team in Los Angeles?
Yes.
So if you're part of SWAT, correct me if I'm wrong, that tells me you know self-defense and you know weapons.
Yes, yeah, to an extent, yes.
To an extent?
Yes.
So you went from a nerd to a badass.
I won't say nerd, but yes.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes, I did learn. I went from an engineer, I'll say, to an investigator first. So that's more important, that you have to be an investigator. You have to understand how to investigate cases. It doesn't matter if it's counterterrorism, counterintelligence, or working drugs and gangs, in which I did. You have to learn how to be an agent first, and then you learn to become a SWAT operator.
So your first assignment was where?
It was in Los Angeles.
And doing what?
I worked gangs, drugs, and violent crimes in Los Angeles.
Scary stuff?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. I mean,
You're
to me,
being
after
modest.
a while, you just you understand the area. You learned how to adjust. No matter where you go around the country, you learned how to adjust to the situation that you're in. So, I mean, Los Angeles was great. I loved the city. Still love the city. Still love the area. Still have some really good friends back there that they're lifelong friends. So Los Angeles, I love.
Ever find yourself in difficult situations, dangerous situations?
Dangerous, yes, depending on the situation. But yes, there's been some dangerous times that the hair in your neck will go up, and that you adjust to that situation.
You ever have situations where you said, maybe the FBI wasn't a good idea?
No, I've never had that come across my mind. Never, not 1 second of my career in the FBI that I've ever self-doubted myself. I had second guess.
Let's talk about some of the things you're facing. Governor Abbott stresses protecting the border, in part because of drug trafficking. That's your wheelhouse. You've investigated drug traffickers for several years. How bad is it?
Well, drug trafficking has been a part of the United States culture for a long time. It's no different now than it was, we'll say, 20 years ago, back when you had significant loads coming up through Miami and some other areas. So is there drug trafficking or drug situation now? Yes, there is an issue now, but it's no different than back then. It's just we have a customer base here in the United States. As long as you have a customer, the goods will come across the border.
So what kind of drugs are we talking about? Where are they coming from? And obviously they come through Houston.
Houston's one of many places they come through. The drugs, various types of drugs come from Central America and South America, mainly down in South America, and they funnel their way up. But there's some in Central America that are produced there, and then in Mexico. But there's all different avenues into the United States. It's just that they look for the weakest points to bring the drugs across.
And what kind of drugs are we talking about?
We're talking about everything from the marijuana to cocaine to heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl.
And fentanyl.
Yes.
Are you seeing more of certain kinds of drugs today than maybe y'all saw before?
I'd have to go back and look at the stats. I'm not into the weeds of the drugs like I was when I was when I was investigating drug trafficking. But I know right now fentanyl is a major issue. Drugs that are laced with fentanyl are a major issue in this country right now with overdoses and people passing away.
Let me go back to a point you made. There's a market here. That's why traffickers keep coming here, because there's a market. So how do you cut down on the market?
Well, there's all different types of ways to look at that. I mean, that are outside of whether it be the FBI's role or DEA's role. There's just a society problem out there that we in the United States have to deal with.
When I talk to people, they say, what is happening to our city? It seems so dangerous. What's your assessment?
Well, we do have a problem with violent crime right now, and it's not just in Houston, it's around the country. What's contributing to it, that's still the unknown, why we're seeing the spike in the violent crimes or the murders. Some areas will probably say it's decreased, but yet some of them not, and it's just widespread now. What's the root cause? I just don't know right now, but we do have an issue. We have a boldness of some of these criminals out there that feel that they can just go out and do what they want, and they don't respect life right now. They don't respect anybody. And that's the issue we have, is that rather than talking through an issue with somebody, they'd rather just shoot, or they see an opportunity and they want to fund themselves or their gangs or their organizations, criminal enterprises. So what they do is they go out and they commit a crime that could be violent or could lead to a violent act.
It seems that criminals, some, no longer fear a badge or law enforcement. They just don't care. They shoot at everybody.
Yes, that's true. There's no respect right now for law enforcement. There's no respect for any human life. And that's the issue we have right now around the country, is that criminals do not respect anyone at all.
What do you say to Houstonians about their fears, their concerns, their anxiety around crime?
Well, I mean, the FBI is assisting, or I should say working with our federal and state and local partners right now to get a handle on the crimes and try to reduce the violent crimes that are going on. We are moving some resources over to address it. However, we have not stopped dealing or working the crimes that we've done in the past, or we currently, which is some of our priorities are counterterrorism, counterintelligence, cyber, crimes against children. So we are working both sides of the fence.
Yeah. I saw an arrest was announced about an armored car heist in March. I think 3 people were arrested, FBI task force. That happened just in the last few days, as I understand it.
Yes, that's true. We did. There was an armored car robbery here in Harris County or in Houston that we investigated along with our partners from the Harris County Sheriff's Department and Houston Police Department. We worked together in the task force, and yes, we did. I should say the task force did arrest, I believe, three individuals.
Mm-hmm. What does the FBI do? What can it do to prevent crimes?
Well, one thing is we work with not just our law enforcement partners, but there are private sector partners out there that we have strong relationships with. We actually go out and we speak to the community, whether it be in a school or a college, to talk about the various issues that are out there, or to even just try to recruit people from all types to the FBI. Because we're not the same agency we were, say, 30, 40 years ago.
How so?
And what I mean is that we're more or less out front, meaning you're likable to meet an FBI agent now face to face than you did in the past. Whereas before it was a big secret about the FBI until there was an arrest and all. But now we're more out front. We're more out in the community, talking to folks, talking to businesses, talking to schools, educate them not only on the FBI, but also some of the vulnerabilities that may be out there for their companies or just day to day in living in society.
The chief of police of Houston said there was a shooting outside the Galleria. He said it was a gang feud. It was gang-related shooting. I mean, people are saying, I can't go to the mall anymore? I mean, this is where this activity is happening?
I wouldn't say fear going to the mall, but you need to be aware of what's around you, no matter where you go. Normally they happen in certain neighborhoods around the city or around the country, but now it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Right, so it's not just secluded to those particular areas or those particular neighborhoods. It could be anywhere.
Yeah. How bad is the gang situation in Houston?
I say it's no different than any other city.
But is it bad?
It's part of some of the violence, yes. Some of the violence is part of gang activity.
Ghost guns, problem here?
I don't know, you'd have to talk more with ATF. They're the ones that the lead agency with when it comes to those type of weapons.
Yeah.
So I would have to defer to them.
Certainly that's something that you come up against, though. I mean, ghost guns, as I understand it, are non-traceable, they don't have serial numbers, and they're legal.
Legal to an extent. And again, I mean, only time we actually investigate ghost guns is if they're part of a crime that has taken place. But the origin, the manufacturing, and all that, that's where ATF is good at. They are the agency behind tracking and understanding it more.
Your boss, the FBI director, said in an interview recently about crime, he said there are more juveniles, more gun trafficking, and more criminals who are getting back out on the street. Does that seem to play out here as well?
Oh yes, that's across the country. We're finding out that more criminals are younger juveniles where we cannot prosecute them in the federal government. There is no system to prosecute juveniles. And yes, we are seeing that across every type of threat there is, whether it be domestic terrorism, whether it be violent crimes, or even terrorism. We're seeing juveniles out there that are discussing their criminal activity.
When you watch a newscast, I wonder what the special agent in charge of Houston thinks when he watches a series of crime stories on television. What goes through your mind?
What, I guess what do you mean by that? I mean,
well,
news or an actual
news.
News. Okay. So news, I would say, I just try to take in what is actually going on in the community. Where can we in the FBI address or work with our partners on these various crimes that are out there? So I would say that's more or less what I look at on the news is what is actually going on? How can we help? How can we direct our resources to work with our state and local partners to address some of these issues?
You had said earlier that you have partners beyond just law enforcement. What are we talking about?
Like your regular private sector or Fortune 500 companies.
And what are you doing with them?
We work a lot with them on cyber crimes or an insider threat or active shooter training. We work with them, try to arm them, try to prepare them, or just so they know where to go if they actually have an issue with any one of those areas. Something
I've been wanting to ask is, we have a lot of crimes here where people go to the bank, they take out cash, they get followed, sometimes 20, 30 minutes. Are those, in some cases, inside jobs? Are people in the bank tipping people off?
I don't know about that. Sometimes you just have good criminals. They know how people react to certain situations. They know what people do when they actually go to a bank to do a financial transaction. Or they follow them away to see what they're going to do. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're this an inside threat, but we have good criminals. The criminal activity has changed or evolved over time. And criminals adjust to various types of crimes. They learn from the mistakes they made, and now they're going forward with new tactics.
That's scary.
That's just the way life is. I mean, that's how we evolve in this world. People evolve to the situation. We in law enforcement, we change our tactics. It's no different than sports. Sports teams adjust to the situation, and criminals do the same thing.
James Smith, thank you.
Thank you.